If you're planning a trip from Kenya to Portugal, whether that is for tourism purposes, for business purposes, whether you're coming on a D2 visa, a D7 visa, a family reunification, a job seeker visa, and so on and so forth, you definitely need a visa. And the process of getting a visa, just like any other country, can be quite tedious and requires a lot of preparation, lots of documentation, and so on and so forth. So this video is to pretty much give you some information that you need to know when applying for a visa from Kenya coming into Portugal, because this is a question that has been asked a lot on my social media handles as well as on here on YouTube. So please stay tuned, take the notes, and if this video is not for you, please share it with someone else who could benefit from it. Once again, just to put a disclaimer out there that I am not an immigration lawyer, I'm not an immigration officer, so I don't process visas at all. This is just information as that I have collected from what I know, what I have experienced, as well what others have experienced, my friends have experienced during this process of obtaining a visa while you're in Kenya to come to Portugal. So first things first, so if you're coming on tourism purposes, the visa is pretty much straightforward and could be easier to get because these are processed by the Greece embassy in Kenya. So you would need to pretty much just contact the Greek embassy in Kenya with your international passport, because that's the first thing that you definitely need if you're traveling anywhere. And also the purpose of your travel, perhaps you have somebody who has invited you to come to Portugal, you also possibly have your ticket, your accommodation, and you can be able to apply for this tourist visa through the Greece embassy in Kenya. So the Greece embassy will offer you a Schengen visa, which allows you to travel across the Schengen countries. And the thing that you need to realize is that since this visa has been issued by the Greece embassy, if you arrive to Portugal, then it would not be as easy to actually extend it because it's not recognized as a visa that has been issued by the Portuguese government. So you need to be careful about that and plan your travel ahead of time, plan your stay very well so that you are not caught off guard in the long run. Now the tourist visa is pretty much easy and straightforward, and especially if you have an invitation from somebody, or you have your reason for travel just for tourism purposes, then it could take a little bit of a shorter period of time to process, depending on the backlog at the embassy, as well as whether you have all the documentation in place, and so on and so forth. Now, if you need to get or obtain a visa, a long-term visa, which could be maybe a job seeker visa, it could be a student visa, business, for example, D2 visa, D7 visa, all these visas, family reunification as well, then you need to apply for these visas through the Maputo consulate. So the Portuguese consulate in Maputo in Mozambique is the one that has the mandate currently to process the visas for Portugal, long-term visas in that case. So now the documentation that you need for each of those visas is dependent on the type of the visa that you are applying for. So the first step to do is to email the consulate in Maputo and ask them to give you the list of the documents that you need to apply for any one of the type of the visas. And some of the generic documents that they might ask of is your passport, obviously, your criminal record certificate in Kenya. Maybe if it is a student visa, then you would need your degree certificates, a letter from the university in Portugal that you've been accepted, accommodation. In some cases, if it's a job seeker visa, they would need to see whether you have some financial means to cater for yourself for the period of time that you'll be here. So it is dependent on the category of visa that you are applying for. Now, some of the documents may need to be certified by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Kenya, and the process has changed a little bit, so you need to check out on that. and some of them also need to be legalized by the Portuguese embassy in Kenya. So these are two things that you need to notice, that you need to certify and legalize depending on the type of visa, and especially if it is like a student visa, you need to certify and legalize some documents while you're still in Kenya before you can send them to Maputo. Now, once you come up with the list of documents as well as the payment that you have made according to what the Maputo consulate told you, then you would need to send all of them, including your passport, in an enclosed envelope via DHL to the address that Maputo consulate gives you. Now, the Maputo consulate, once they receive your documents, they would need to check them and process, and this process could take as low as 2 weeks all the way to 8 months, depending on the backlog that they have. So what you need to do between this period of time is to keep following up with them to see where your visa process is at whatever given point in time. They would maybe give you a feedback and tell you they're still processing, and as soon as they process the visa, then they will give you a notification via email saying that yes, your visa is now ready and has been affixed on your passport and it's ready for collection. Now at that point, you need to call or go to DHL yourself and request them to go and collect your passport, and they can return it to you back in Kenya. Now, this is quite the process, obviously. So if you are planning, for example, for studies, or you're planning to move via D7 visa or a D2 visa and so on and so forth, or a job seeker visa, then you need to give yourself an allowance of time. I would say to the very least 6 months, so that you can allow some bit of time for your visa to be processed and your passport returned to you, so that you can begin your journey. Now, the documentation that is required is, like I said, very generic. So you would need your passport. They ask for your proof of accommodation. They ask for a criminal record certificate from Kenya. They would also ask for you to pay a certain fee through the bank. These are the generic documents, please remember. They would also need, for example, if it's a job seeker visa, proof of financial means, or if you are coming to fund your own school, then you would need also to have this proof, as well as you would need to also prove that you can be able to take care of yourself in terms of accommodation, or if you have somebody who is sponsoring you in Portugal, then this is something that you would need to do, especially for family reunification visas. So there are several documents that you need, and this documentation could keep on changing depending on the immigration laws. Immigration laws are always changing, so please make sure that you're doing exactly what the consulate asks for, and give yourself some bit of time so that you are not getting late to do your travel. I hope this information has been helpful to you, and I hope that you gathered something from you. Please ask anything that you might have in mind. Leave a comment down below so that I can get back to you. And once again, just to put a disclaimer out there that this information is just what I have experienced, as well as some of my friends have experienced. I'm not an immigration lawyer. I'm not an immigration officer. I will not be able to process your visa at whatever cost or whatever means. So please note that this is just for your information purposes so that you are ready. See you later.